Hello everyone, we are live and today we're going to talk about when you're buying an OLED TV, you clearly have all these options from the lowest tier to the highest tier and everything in between. The question is, and I get this so often, if you're paying a little bit more to jump into the next tier, what exactly are you getting and is it worth that jump? What about jumping from the lowest tier to the highest tier flagship, sometimes triple the price again? What are you getting at triple the price? I think the answers may surprise you. So I'm going to set it up to help clarify what it is you're getting. And we're going to avoid talking about nits and other technical terms that I don't think is relevant to the common viewer. And when I say common viewer, I'm talking about if you're a calibrator, you're not a common viewer. You're counting the nits, you're counting the luminance, you're looking at the contrast in terms of percentages. The common viewer is watching, Columbo, as well as TV shows, Netflix, streaming, right? YouTube, Disney Plus, Hulu, Lulu, whatever. And I think the question is, when you watch all of that, is there a difference? When you're watching Maverick with Tom Cruise, whether it's the lowest of the low, the LG B3, or the highest of the high, the Samsung S95F, what's the difference watching Maverick between those two TVs? And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I think that's what you guys really want to know is there something to that extra $500 or the extra 1,000? And if you have more questions, you want to go into detail, please ask. But I saw you guys are here. Hey, Classy is here. Yo, yo. And Curiosity. Hey, Jason Sims. Everybody. Oh, this is awesome. I don't think we'll be breaking 1,000 views like Caleb did, but I'll be happy with over 100. So it's awesome. And Astro Vibe, in short, is the A95L still worth it in 25, 26? I would say yes if you are a Sony enthusiast, and we're going to get into why shortly. And I have some charts for you guys too, because you know how much I love charts, right? And I haven't seen anyone talk about the Sony XR8B, which I'll tell you right now, it's very similar to the A80L, or no, the Bravia 8, sorry. It's very similar to the Bravia 8, except it's less expensive because they took a few of the more expensive items away, but the image quality is identical. So that's why no one talks about it. It's essentially a Bravia 8, but slightly cut down in terms of the other things unrelated to image quality to make it cheaper. Okay, and oh, this is the kind of question I love. I'm confused about which to buy, the 65-inch G4 versus the C5. Yes, this is the place to ask those questions. Now, in the meantime, before we jump in and dive deep, a quick word from our sponsor. Hey friends, Windows 10 support is ending, but don't spend $199 to upgrade to Windows 11 Pro. Get it for about $21 with today's sponsor, Whokeys. This Black Friday, Windows 11 Pro, Windows 11 Home, and even Office 2019 are all 30% off with my code SF20. Yes, Black Friday is here. Get an additional 30% off with my code SF20. Let's get it, then activate it. Go to Whokeys.com, add Windows 11 Home to your cart, apply my discount code SF20, and bam, only $21. Here's how we activate it. Go to your Whokeys account at the top right under User Center. Click on My Purchased Orders. Click on View Keys and Code. Click Get the Key. Copy the Windows 11 Pro key under Code Card. Then go to your system settings, scroll down and click Activation. Click Change Product Key. Paste the key code. Click Next and you're done. And Whokeys makes this whole process easy. You get instant key delivery, 24/7 customer support, and hassle-free returns. Check out the Whokeys links in the video description below. And we're back. Okay, got some great questions when I saw what I saw you guys are asking here, and I'm gonna mark those and we're gonna answer those shortly. But before we jump into that, I think some of your questions may be answered in this chart. I have two versions of this chart. Let me throw out this chart real quick right here. And so I tried to grade each of these OLED TVs within their brand, right? You got LG on top, and you got Samsung, and you have Sony. And my purpose is to give you an idea of what you will really see when you bring it home. And this is critical. So first of all, on the left, you have all the models, right? LG, Samsung, Sony. And then each column to the right of that, we have filmmaker professional mode. So filmmaker is what LG and Samsung calls their most accurate mode. Sony calls it professional. And I put 95% content, which is this. 95% of the content, if you want creator's intent, this is what you're going to see. So the other 5%, we're talking about extraordinarily bright HDR. But as far as everything else, that's not extraordinarily bright. I may even be overstating it at 95. I think it may even be 98%, but I'm just going to say 95, right? I'm leaving 5% for room for optimism that HDR will get brighter in the coming year or two. But regardless, most of the content you watch in Filmmaker or Professional, that's the first column. The next column is, all right, you don't want reference because you're in a bright room. And reference Filmmaker Professional is way too dark because they assume you're in a dark room, right? So in a bright room, you're going to have to move into the bright movie mode of your respective TVs. So on the LG, that's Cinema Home. On the Samsung, that may be Filmmaker with active or movie with active on, basically brightening the picture, but still maintaining somewhat accurate colors. And on the Sony, it would be the cinema mode, right? Slightly brighter. And if you like Dolby Vision, then it'd be Dolby Vision bright. And then, of course, if you're watching sports or news or just kind of content where you want it just bright and punchy, you have standard mode. And then you have sports mode where you want to maximize the brightness. You don't care about color accuracy, just don't go too crazy. You just need the brightness to cut through the bright room, especially if you're watching hockey or football or soccer, where the field, you want it to be bright and vibrant, right? That's kind of like the sports mode. Okay, and as you'll see, and this is so important, if you watch most of the time in filmmaker mode, you noticed I have all these OLEDs graded nearly identical, if not identical. And this is very important because in filmmaker professional mode reference, these TVs at this point, they're all going to be very similar, if not the same. And this is why I encourage people who are like, oh, I'm all about creator's intent. I watch in a dark room. If you're only watching in that environment and you're watching mostly these normal movies from Netflix, you're not searching for the HDR impact movies like Alpha or Mad Max, literally the same 5 movies we've used for reviews, right? They're all going to look the same. And over and over, I have been greatly shocked at how identical the B series looks like the G series when watching the same content that's graded to really within the capabilities of both TVs. And so it goes to a kind of larger discussion. Creators in Hollywood, studios, Netflix, they know the vast majority of the population have sucky TVs, right? The TVs aren't great. And they're like, look, we're not going to waste our time creating these amazing, punchy, bright movies when most of the people watching, like, this doesn't look right because their TV can't properly tone map it down. Instead, they'll just grade it to the lowest common denominator. In this case, the B5 is going to look exactly the same after calibration. I have to say that because each of these TVs are slightly different pre-calibration, but I'm just going to say, let's put the color aside for a second, right? We'll talk about that shortly. But just pure brightness, calibration doesn't raise their brightness, and nor does it lower it. Normally, it stays within a few points where you're not going to notice it. But here's the key. If you're watching in filmmaker mode in a light-controlled dark room, there really is no reason to get more than a B5. Now, I understand QD OLED has better color luminance and all those great things, but you don't really see that until you start raising the brightness. Well, if you're watching Netflix, rarely does that happen. And if you watch certain movies, and I saw this summer when I got the digital version of Superman and then Jurassic World, Rebirth, greatly disappointed. It wasn't really bright. I didn't need to have a G5, nor did I need to have anything better really than a C5 or a B5 to still enjoy it. So relative brightness between these TVs, if you're watching normal content in filmmaker professional mode, they're really so similar. And now what you're choosing is not brightness, but the color personalities of each of these TVs out of the box. If you get it calibrated, they'll be nearly indistinguishable. Now, they each have their own quirks where you cannot calibrate it out, but ultimately they'll be nearly indistinguishable once calibrated. And this is why I am so adamant about getting the largest size you can afford among these TVs, because if you're watching mostly professional or filmmaker, you're paying extra for extra brightness. But let's look at the other 3 columns, right? If you're in a bright room, Now we're talking, because now you need to push the TV beyond creator's intent, meaning, guys, I'm in a bright room. This filmmaker is not watchable, or this professional mode is not watchable. I need it to be in cinema home. I need it to have the active on the Samsung to be a bit brighter. I need to put the Sony in their standard mode, whatever. Okay, 100% of the time now, it's going to be this difference in brightness. So the LG B5 could only get a little bit brighter than where it is normally. And then the C5 gets a little bit brighter than that. The G5 gets very bright. I would say easily the brightest TV, brightest OLED TV you can get, matching the brightest mini LED TVs out there. And then Samsung similar, right? You go from the S85F, which is somewhat similar to the B5, but it is QD OLED in their certain sizes. But ultimately, they're changing, or they're rather striating the different models by brightness capability more than anything. But again, if you're in a bright room, this is when you upgrade from a B5 to maybe a G5, or to an S90F, or to a Bravia 8. Now with Sony, they don't get super bright. I mean, they'll get a little bit brighter than the past generation, but they try to preserve this kind of, I don't want to say dim. It's just not as bright as the other TVs. It's bright enough for me, but for some of you who always watch in vivid mode and you appreciate that punch, that's where, or dynamic mode, that's where the flagship TVs come in. So you go into standard or sports mode, right? Again, 100% of the content will reflect this extra brightness. This is what you're paying for. Now, this is key. Unless you watch in standard sports mode or bright home movie mode, cinema home, upgrading for brighter technology, you're wasting your money. You're never going to use it. It's like having an extra in a car, 200 miles per hour on tap that you will never use. It's just sitting there, right? You get yourself a V12, but you're driving around the block in the parking lot. That's kind of like what filmmaker mode is, right? It's, driving in the country club, parking lot, when Prius will do. You have a Ferrari, because going over a speed bump, there's only so how fast you can go. So keep that in mind. And now we're going to dive into your questions, but I wanted to kind of give you that perspective. Now, this is based on each of the models within their respective lineup, right? From the least bright to the brightest. Oh, I was going to talk about color. So each of these brands have their own color twist. Mostly it's because of the panel technology. So the LG W OLED, right? LG Display makes W OLED. Samsung uses W OLED on some sizes. And Sony with the Bravia 8 Mark II and the A95L does not use W OLED. Now the older Bravia 8 does. W OLED has their weaknesses, which is it may appear green in certain gray scenes off angle. It has that magenta tint that still hasn't gone away. And sometimes, even after calibration, you're going to see that. Now, some people who are sensitive to it, they can't stand it. They will never get a W OLED. But that's why we're talking the calibrators and the reviewers who are sensitive to this. And if you're not, don't worry about it. QD OLED mostly has eliminated that, but some people say, well, they feel there's this magenta, and in a bright room, there's a slight color shift because of the ambient light striking the screen that affects QD OLED only. So these are the little things. And then Sony uniquely has desaturated green this year. So if you want more green that's accurate, you're going to have to get it calibrated. These are minor complaints that enthusiasts kind of harp upon. So I'm not going to focus on that, because I think those things are somewhat, it misses the larger point, which is, okay, that's a small minor issue, but then if you're getting a really large size, like an 83-inch, I think the immersion makes up the difference. So it's always that, what is the least evil? What's the what's that analogy? The what can you tolerate, right? The lesser of the evils, because no TV is perfect. Okay, so I'm going to pop this in real quick for you guys. Okay, this is based, I think, on the relative brightness and the reasons why people kind of upgrade from one to the next. So B5 of this group, technically, B5 and S85F are similar in that they are the lower end of their respective brands. S85F, QD OLED, and LG B5. Now I think the S85F actually is limited to 55 and 65 inch QD OLED. 77 I think ends up being a W OLED. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you don't need extra brightness, right, you're okay with filmmaker mode. And this is kind of like the thing. I know QD OLED is on the S85F, but if it's not that bright, you're not really fully taking advantage of QD OLED. So you might as well get the LG B5, in my opinion. Then you have the LG C5, slightly brighter. S90F, definitely brighter. A95L and Bravia 8 Mark II, I think, are very similar to the S90F. And so they're kind of like packed right there. G5 is definitely brighter, but you lose some of that color luminance as you get up in brightness, and that leaves on the very top the S95F. So I'll kind of leave this here for you guys, and let's hit your questions. Kind of long-winded, right? I had to get that out so that we set the stage for what I'm talking about. And let me move this over here so you guys, people who jump in, know what we're talking about here. Okay. And okay, I think I had one of these saved up. Here we go. Hello, sir. Thank you for doing this. Mr. Zone of Value tells me that the Sony Bravia 5 98-inch is better than the 98-inch TCL QM9K. What do you think? P.S. I am not a gamer. So the word better is every one of us think differently when we talk about better. Are we talking about natural skin tones? Are we talking about near black shadow detail? Are we like, what is the content you're watching? So the QM9K, I haven't reviewed the 98-inch, but I've reviewed the 65-inch. And to be honest, I was not impressed by the premium because it was more similar to the QM8K, falling behind in many ways. Now, the QM9K, what it does slightly better than the QM8K was that its color accuracy was better, and it followed the OTF curve better, meaning that it didn't over brighten, but its tone mapping was incredibly aggressive. It made bright scenes that it could easily do even dimmer than the QM8K. It felt like it was more of a Bravia 7, Bravia 5 competitor in that respect. It over-tone mapped real content. So when you put on a meter, for whatever reason, it's unleashed. Oh my gosh, 6,000 nits, 6,500 nits. This is amazing, right? And then you put in real scenes and it's not there. I did it with Alpha, I did it with Mad Max, and the QM9K consistently was less bright than the Bravia 9 and the QM8K, which led me to think, okay, they need to fix their tone mapping software. So back to the Bravia 5. So that, I don't think the QM9K has the advantage in terms of HDR impact. It had less HDR impact than the QM8K. Now, color accuracy, the 5 has the Sony thing happening, right? The Bravia 5. I like it. I have 98-inch now. Highly recommend it, but you have to enjoy. That's what Sony does. It is not, and you don't game. So I say, get the Bravia 5 98-inch, enjoy the heck out of it. Now, both of these TVs, the QM9K and the 5, though, you're going to have a little reflection. So one TV you may consider, although it's a bit above budget of the Bravia 5 98-inch, because I know that currently is $4,000, which isn't bad. It's actually pretty good for a Sony. The $6,000 to $8,000 Samsung QN90F has the anti-glare, which I finished reviewing about a couple of weeks ago, and I love the anti-glare in a bright room. The Sony, you only notice the reflections when the TV is off. When it's off, I see everything. But then when you turn it on, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not that bad, right? So it depends on what you're watching. If there's content normally, I don't even notice the reflection at all. And the QM9K isn't better with that in mind. So I don't know if that helps you answer the question, but I find the QM9K or the T-cells in general, they need more tweaking of their colors. And definitely there's black crushing happening on the QM9K that if you're watching dark scenes, you're going to have to go into the gamma and bring it down to 2.0 to see the shadow detail. They just way over darkened everything on the QM9K. And definitely they're going to have to fix that in a firmware update. Okay. Hey, Robert, thank you for that super chat. Here we go. And I see more. So we're going to go backwards. I see you, Wikiron and Taras Kulik in Buffalo. All right, start with Robert. I have a B5 and as you know, the G5. B5 was a huge surprise in picture quality. I like brightness, so I would never pick the B5 as my main TV. But if you are a filmmaker mode lover, it's a perfect TV. Thanks, FOMO. And to this point, I think someone asked about the larger B4 versus a 77-inch B5. I would take the 83-inch B4 all day long. And I'll tell you this right now. When I was at M-Wave 2 weeks ago, we had a B3 right there next to a C4 and a G4. And we were watching Minority Report, right? SDR. The B4 had better color accuracy than either the C4, the B3 had better color accuracy than the C4 or the G4. And those two weren't brighter because it was Minority Report and SDR. They all looked the same, except we all looked at the B3 and go, wow, that looks just like the Sony A95L, very similar. And we had another TV, I forgot which one it was as well. Oh, the TCL QM8, right? That also was not bright because it was Minority Report and SDR because we put it in the most accurate movie mode. And the B3 knocked them all out, matching the A95L. And we're like, okay, what just happened here? And from that point forward, it hit me. I'm going to have to rethink how we rank these TVs. And to your point, Robert, and those who are shopping with an older B series, for the same money, if you're getting a larger screen, always get the larger screen because I feel that OLEDs with infinite contrast, they've reached a point where the immersion makes up for any of the minor differences. Oh, it's got brightness booster. You're not going to see it. I mean, when do you need brightness booster, right? I know when you're gaming, right? Certain HDR, flash, pang, whatever, or when you're watching movies like Mad Max, that flash in the tornado, the giant sandstorm. I get it. That's when you see it. But other than that, I think the B4 at 83 inches would be more immersive more often, almost all the time, right? So all the time you'll be enjoying 83 inches. Whereas on the B5 77, you might enjoy a slight brightness boost here and there every now and then, but all the time it'll be 77 inches. So when you go for size, all content, you'll enjoy the additional immersion. And that's how I like to err, and it's an immediate improvement for you guys for sure. And Wiki Ron 007. Hi FOMO, considering a 65-inch S90F, Bravia 7 or QM8K. Okay, so three very different TVs. You got one editor's choice QD OLED, the Samsung S90F. I love that TV. And then you have the Bravia 7 mini LED from last year, and the QM8Ks this year is just HDR impact king among mini LEDs. 4 feet viewing distance, semi-bright open living room, light gaming, mostly will be used at nighttime for movies, looking for immersive quality and reliability. Okay. Well, first of all, as far as reliability, get an extended warranty. So, none of these three TV brands guarantees that they won't break. They all TVs, all electronics has a certain uh, percentage of tolerance that some percentage will break within the first year. You don't know if you're the winner of that panel lottery or the loser, but if you have extended warranty, then you win because you don't have to worry about it. And I've seen people complain about breaking TVs no matter what it is. Samsung's flagship S95F or their 8K TV or a Sony or a TCL. Now, granted, some TCLs have more return issues than others, as well as Hisense, but it depends on the model as well. Like this year, people complain the QM8K has an audio buzzing issue that some hear. Sounds like it's a coil whine of some sort. So I would say that in this case, personally, I would take the QD OLED 65-inch S90F with, because they're all the same size, right? With an extended warranty. I think it's bright enough. I love just QD OLED, Samsung, their motion, their processing. Nighttime, it's going to be an amazing TV, given that any of these three TVs are fine. But if you're saying to me, well, 65-inch S90F, or for the same price, I can get a 98-inch QM8K. I got to go with a 98-inch QM8K because now it's immersive quality, and the reliability, again, get an extended warranty, and that covers reliability. So let me know if you can get the larger sizes available to you. But if it's the same size, editor's choice, Samsung S90F. I really love that TV. It's such a good TV all around. And Taras, thank you for your patience, my friend. Would I be losing picture quality if I use the latest generation Google TV 4K streamer as my default instead of the built-in WebOS? I'm going to say right now the answer is no. So a lot of us have been comparing internal apps and external streamers, and consistently I have found internal apps to be their own thing, not better. It's just they have to be constantly updated by the manufacturer. We're talking whether it's LG or Samsung's Tizen. That's a different app that they have to update, whereas it feels like Google, Fire, and Apple TV do a better job of keeping those apps updated. But ultimately, minor differences, right? I know Classy did a comparison about a year ago, and he found that Apple TV had the highest bit rate. But ultimately, though, when you're watching them, I find them to be nearly indistinguishable. The only thing I do not like about the built-in apps, all of them, WebOS or Google TV, built into the TV, you cannot disable Dolby Vision. It's You're locked in. And to me, Dolby Vision does more harm than good because sometimes it's just way too dark. And with an external streamer, you could convert away from HDR or Dolby Vision and go into SDR. You cannot do that with an app, an internal app of the TV. So with a streamer, whether it's Google or Fire or Apple, I believe you can disable HDR altogether and get the SDR version, which is to me oftentimes better looking, Game of Thrones in some episodes. So don't sweat it. If you prefer Google TV and over Tizen and you get a streamer to use it on your Samsung, I think it looks phenomenal. The internal apps definitely are not better. It's just convenient. I think you're going with internal app for convenience more than anything, but not for audio quality, not for video quality. And next up is we have a super chat from Audio Degenerate. 2024 85-inch QM8 or for $1449 or 100-inch U75QG for $2199. I got to go with the 100-inch. The immersion, the HDR impact. So QM8 has good HDR impact. I appreciate that HDR impact a lot, but the U75QG also has great HDR impact. And at 100 inches, now we're talking because it's not just HDR you're getting everything at 100 inches. And this is more than 33% larger viewing area, right? So that is what you're paying for. The extra, see, $1,500, $700, right? The extra $700 and change, it's going for size. And I think that is a worthwhile. But tell me what it is you watch, because the U75QG is super bright HDR. If you're watching, I mean, at that size, it doesn't need to be super bright, by the way. You can get away with a less expensive TV at that size and probably still look very similar. But yeah, that U75 is just a powerhouse and my editor's choice TV because of how well it does compared to similar TVs and better TVs. It is, I would say, I'd get that as my poor man's Bravia 9, or some called it the smart man's Bravia 9. All right, let's see. Next up is, I see your super chat, JS, you're 8, but I don't see your question, so I will get back to you. I'll look for it. And we have here Dirty Gibbs. I have an 83-inch A90J in a dark room and is used for gaming. Okay, think about A95L or Bravia 8 Mark II as a replacement. Keep what I have or go QD. Only care about picture quality, HDR brightness, accuracy, in game mode. So you got a lot of things happening here. If it's just, okay, if you're watching mostly SDR stuff, I think the A90J is fine. If you really want the HDR impact, the 83-inch G5 is a whole step above. I mean, we're talking real impact at that size. You can't go smaller. So really, you're going from an 83-inch A90J to an 83-inch G5. If you go with the A95L 77-inch, I don't feel comfortable recommending you go smaller because your immersion just dropped for some minor HDR impact improvements in only some movies, but in everything it's going to suck because it's smaller. So if you only care about picture quality, HDR brightness, and accuracy, in game mode, I think the G5 at 83 inches is the best way to go, for sure. So we're going to see some sales there, or G4. G4 or G5 will blow away the A90J at 83 inches in terms of HDR impact and game mode. Okay, and we have GB5125. I want to upgrade my 75-inch U8K to a bigger mid-range TV. Not a very bright living room, wanting to stay around 2000, open to 85-inch up to 100-inch TV. Suggestions? Yes. At the 100-inch size, you have the U75QG. You're staying within the Hisense family. It will be under 2000 or somewhere around 2000 by Black Friday. It's just over 2000 right now. Hisense U75QG 100-inch. It's in your price range. You're going to love it. You're used to the Hisense look at U8K. This just doubles down on it. So let me know what kind of price you can get for it. But I expect it to be $19.99 by the time Black Friday rolls around. Okay. And here we have a super chat. Robert Conrad, thank you for another one. Do you think Sony's going to do a new 77-inch QD OLED this year? There is a lot of debate whether Sony will release another QD OLED this coming year, 2026, because we all know they are definitely releasing their RGB LED, the Bravia 9 Mark II and the Bravia 7 Mark II, both of which will be RGB mini LED, RGB LED type technology. And this will bury any hype for Sony's QD OLED flagship replacement. If they do release it, it would have to be later in the year. So spring launch will be the RGB LEDs, then the TVs will start releasing over the summer, and then maybe in the fall, like around September, we might see a QD OLED successor to the A95L. And I know the Bravia 8 Mark II is supposed to be, but it wasn't really a Master Series. The 77-inch successor may come late in the year, but more likely it may come next year because all the excitement is behind the RGB LED. But that's me speculating. I hope to be proven wrong, but I rarely see Sony release two flagship technologies in the same year. They want to give all the attention to that one Halo product, which would be the RGB LED. And we have a super chat from TS88199. Thank you. I am looking at 80-inch size of a TV for general TV watching and movie nights. $1,400 for the U7Q or the Bravia 5 with military discount at $1,530. Get the Bravia 5 with a military discount only because that $130 is not bad. And you're getting an 85-inch size? Come on. Yeah, go with the Bravia 5. I think you'll be fine. I just like Sony's plug and play. It looks great out of the box. Boom. You'll be happy with it. Because even with a Hisense, you end up tweaking a lot of stuff, right? Oh, should I turn on dynamic tone mapping? Should I keep it off? Oh, in this scene, should I turn this on? Should I turn this off? I just don't like that. Okay, so we had an outstanding super chat from the Street Life and also JSUR8. So let me see if I could find it here, Street Life. Ask again if I missed it, the actual question. But thank you for the super chat. Oh, here we go. Found it. Hey, bro, I'm trying to decide whether I should buy a Samsung Q80D, Q90D, or the TCL QM8K. TCL QM8K. The Q80, Q90D don't even come close to what the QM8K will do. So I can play the Goldie Oldies, PlayStation video games, and streaming content. Which is the one for me? So the QM8K, great for gaming, HDR impact, they will play everything well. It feels to me the Q80 and the Q90 from Samsung are just overpriced LCD TVs. It's not even the QN series. It's priced, it's not priced correctly. They're just ripping you off at the premium prices they're charging, especially if it's similar to the TCL QM8K. I would even say get the TCL QM7K, save a little bit more money and get a larger size. So you could do your Goldie Oldie PlayStation video games and streaming content. The QM7K and QM8K are great gaming TVs. As a value, I recommend it. All right. And let's see, there's another question I'm looking for out there. And if I missed your question URL, ask it again because I don't think I see it. Oh, here we go, found it. Reviewers avoid it. So you order a 98-inch X11K for $4,200. Boy, you're ballin'. Reviewers avoid it as 2024 tech, but yet have no problems recommending the A95L as 2023 tech. Chinese reviews rave it as cream of the crop mini LED. Still a mistake? Okay, so this is something that I'm kind of going to dance about a little bit. Whether it's 2024 tech or 2025 tech or 2023 tech, it's all about the image quality. The QM9K, 2025 tech, clearly, and yet it cannot beat the Bravia 9, which is 2024 tech, right? The X11K. So here's the thing with the Chinese. They put so much of their money into the hardware. So when you buy a Chinese TV, you're literally buying the tech, right? You're putting your money down to buy the tech. You're buying the additional dimming zones. You're buying the latest 23-bit mini LED. So the X11K lacks that 23-bit processor mini LED in the back. It lacks the extra wide viewing angle technology, the crisp glow, but doesn't make a difference. So here's the problem with Chinese brands focusing so much on hardware. The value of that TV suddenly is linked to the hardware they're using. Whereas, let's say Sony, they're focused on the image quality, not the hardware. So the A95L won King of TVs in 2023. They won again in 2024. And then most people say the Bravia 8 Mark II looks like an A95L knockoff, just slightly brighter, and they win again in 2025. But really, it's the same tech. It's the same QD OLED with a slightly newer panel that Samsung Display sold them in 2025. But really, it's QD OLED, right? It's just slightly more efficient. So I would say that's the 2023 tech. Slightly improved QD OLED, but really it's software controlled to make it brighter or not as bright. Whereas the Chinese mini LED, it's all about putting in more dimming zones, more this, more that. What they don't do enough of is the software development. So whether the X11K is worth $4,200 depends on how good that software is, because they have the dimming zones. They don't need anything more. The question is whether this software is the same as the one that's on the QM9K. Because I find the QM9K not to be that much better than the QM8K. Other than its color accuracy, the blooming control was not that much better. The shadow detail is definitely worse. It does a lot more black crushing. So I think they're still struggling with the software there. But as far as 98-inch for 4200 X11K, I haven't not seen it. I haven't seen it next to anything in a vacuum. If you enjoy your TV, buy an extended warranty and enjoy the heck out of it for the next 5 years. I'm not going to second guess it because reviewers only have so much time in a year, and TCL and Hisense literally do not follow yearly releases anymore. They're releasing every 6 months. Just new TVs, just out of the blue. And so we could only choose the TVs that we have time for. We cannot choose all of them. And to me, the X11K is so similar to the QM9K in terms of the number of dimming zones and this and that. I'm like, I don't want to review the same TV, essentially, right? I feel the X11K is similar to QM9K, except what TCL told me is, but don't use this for gaming. I'm like, so it's like a non-gaming version of the QM9K. They're like, no, this is really built for cinema. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, maybe it has better accuracy, this and that. I'm like, okay, well, the QM9K color accuracy is actually pretty good out of the box, so maybe the X11K is that, right? It's just got great color accuracy out of the box. So again, it's your 4200. If you enjoyed it, you didn't make a mistake because that's a great size. Although there are similar TVs for less like the U75QG for half the price or the QM7K. More importantly, what is it you watch, right? So, but if you enjoy it, don't second guess it. Just sit down, enjoy the TV. You're able to afford it, right? Don't use your credit card and spend 5 years paying it off. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. What's better on the Hisense ADS Pro panel or the VA panel? So it appears that all of the U75QG this year are VA panels. None of them are ADS panel. I have an article on this. We'll have another live stream next week talking about it, or a video at least, where they asked Hisense, hey, this year the U75 QG, is it mix of VA and ADS Pro? What is it? And they're like, nope, it's all VA from the smallest size to the largest size. US region U75 QG, all VA panels. It's in I forgot which article it was, but I'll post it in my community page for you guys. So if you're looking for ADS Pro, Hisense does not make it easy to confirm. And that article just confirmed that U75QG are all VA panels. So I cannot even say, oh, well, get this because it's ADS Pro, because apparently this year it's not. That's not the case. Okay. But yes, technically ADS panels have better viewing angle, better color saturation when you have all the mini LEDs and all the local dimming zones going. I prefer it. I think it looks great. I think Samsung, when they use the ADS Pro on their QN90B, I want to say, it was amazing. I thought it looked better than their VA panel versions, right? Or is it QN85B? That generation, unfortunately, was their last generation using ADS Pro, but it looked phenomenal. So I was a believer after that, right? What we have more questions here. Oh, Getty, welcome, my friend. FOMO, the Panasonic and are the confirmed TV with new tandem OLED, but what about the S95F83? It is tandem OLED. Okay, so Samsung won't confirm it, but everyone who's seen it, reviewed it, it is primary RGB tandem at the 83-inch size. That appears to be the case, but Samsung will not commit to that. Okay, and thank you, MTL26, for that super chat. Hi, FOMO. Going from an LG C10, I want accurate skin tone, color accuracy, and brightness in a light-controlled room. From the Z95B, Bravia 8 Mark II, S95F, G5, watch everything, a lot of YouTube. Want the best. Personally, I think the S95F filmmaker mode looks amazing out of the box. Z95B is right there. So if you don't game, it feels like the Z95B feels organic to me. I like the colors on there. I like the options. But if you do game, get the S95F. Those are the two that I would look at. The Bravia 8 Mark II out of the box, it does need calibration, undersaturated greens, and whatever Sony's doing, they do it on purpose, but it makes skin tones look more pleasant, but it's not technically as accurate as the Panasonic or the S95F. Now, if you want like pure, like the best in color accuracy, get the S95F. It's just, I think it's my favorite TV, although it's not editor's choice. It's a bit expensive. S90F is so close. S95F would be the best in this group. That's the one I would choose above all the ones you've listed for what you want, which is brightness, color accuracy, skin tone. S95F would be my choice. And second would be the Z95B. And then Bravia 8 Mark II would be behind that. Let me know what you get. Good choices, man. First world problems for sure. And we have this question. Harold, let me see. Oh yeah, we already answered that from you. Okay. Hey, FOMO, I took your advice and got the U75QG in 85 inches. I have a 65-inch QM8. Will it be a better TV or not? Yes, it will be a better TV. The QM8 is good. It's not terrible. For the price, it's great. HDR impact, but the color accuracy on the U75QG is better. You're going to notice the difference in skin tones right away. I feel the QM8 oversaturated the reds a bit still, better this year. Definitely, it looks like it's fixed on the QM9K. You will see better skin tones on the U75QG and better shadow detail. So yes, good choice. You will see that improvement, especially in the darker scenes. And Mantis to Bogand MD 5231. I plan on getting the B5 to mainly watch 4K movies on disc. Also some PS5 games once in a while. The 65-inch is $999. The 75-inch is $1,500. Viewing distance is 10 feet. Worth $500 to go bigger? That is the best reason to go bigger, is the $500. $500 to get brighter rarely is worth it. But $500 to go bigger, to me, this is a big jump because I think an 83-inch B5, first of all, the extra size gets you more brightness perceptually, right? Even though the brightness is measured the same, when it's a bigger screen, it feels brighter. That's just how your eyes work, right? You're slightly closer, it's slightly bigger, it just feels brighter. Go bigger, get the 83-inch, and you're 10 feet away. 10 feet away, I'm watching on a 120-inch screen, and I think that's absolutely perfect. I probably could go even larger if I wanted to, but I was watching college football yesterday, 10 feet away, 120, and it was awesome. So yes, go 83 because OLED only goes up to 83. I think you'll be fine, especially in a light-controlled room. Knockout. Great, great choice. And oh, well, you're welcome, Mad Matt. Thank you for that super chat. Thanks for everything you do. Yes, I'm here for you. Here for you. If you can fit a 98-inch, FOMO is going to tell you to get it. Yes, I am. Okay, and let me tell you why. All the TVs from the QM6K on up in terms of tiers are just so good now that I have trouble telling people, well, the QM8K is this much better. I know it's better here and there, but what am I doing to demonstrate that? I pull out the toughest content. I pull out Jennifer Gala. I pull out Alpha. I put out scenes where I know, unless you have enough dimming zones, you will fail tone mapping and color gradations. But if I put out Columbo, and this is so terrible, if I put out Columbo on a QM6K, put it on a QM9K, you'd be like, wait, which is which? And the 98-inch QM6K has anti-glare matte screen. The only other TV at that size that has it is the $8,000 Samsung QN90F. And so, to me, the similarities between the QM6K and the top, when you're watching most of what I know you guys watch, TV shows, sports, at 98 inches, don't even worry about brightness. It is bright enough. TV shows, sports, right? Just older TV shows. Get the largest TV that will fit your room for your budget. Don't go less than the QM6K though. Like the Q55K, that's a little bit too old school. There's no dimming zones at all. But it's like what, 1600 now for a 98-inch QM6K, and it has anti-glare matte screen? Like what? So yeah, right? Now, if you are coming from OLED TVs, you're so used to infinite contrast, I wouldn't tell you to do that. But hey, 55, 65-inch OLED, I think you'll still be wowed at 98 inches, honestly. But, you guys are kind of snobs, right? I get it. I'm a snob. I love QD OLED, but the immersive size, I'm telling you, man. Oh, I missed your follow-up. Dirty Gibbs, I'm so sorry. Let me find your follow-up. Okay. Thanks for the reminder. Sorry you had to put a super chat to remind me. I'm going solo. Otherwise, oftentimes my bromo catches that. Hey, why don't you ask that again? If you can cut and paste that question again. I don't seem to see it, Dirty Gibbs. Or did you do a super chat on that? Oh, there we go. No? Let me see. Oh, here we go. Found it. Only interested in a Sony TV. I do not want SDR content, just console gaming. Ah, okay. So let's go back. So, okay. Then get the A95L 77-inch. Gaming on the A95L or Bravia 8 Mark II, very similar, right? If you only care about Sony OLED TVs are their best gaming TVs. just because of the pixel response and the latency. Just OLED panel by its nature is superior to a mini LED panel in that respect. So if you're talking game mode, the A95L 77-inch gets you the most size. Unfortunately, there's no QD OLED at the 83-inch size, so you're stuck at 77-inch A95L. Go with that one. I think you're fine. And by the way, I game on a Sony QD OLED. I find it's fine for me, but I'm not the enthusiast some of you are, so I get it if it's not good enough for you guys, but I think it's the PS5 Pro looks great on all these TVs, right? My standards aren't as high as many of you, so I get it. And I agree with RK. 77-inch Samsung S90F QD OLED is the best overall deal for Black Friday. Not the cheapest, but the best. So I think it's what, 1,400, something like that. If you go on Samsung.com, you're a AAA member or military or EDU, right? It's around 1,500 something, just around that general area, right? Amazing price. And to add to this, the best 83-inch size, any TV, any OLED TV at $19.99, whether it's the LG B5 or Samsung could get even cheaper. Potentially the 83-inch WOLED from Samsung might go to 1,800 by Black Friday, but any of those OLEDs is going to be amazing at under 1,900. So yeah, those two prices, the immersion and this one, just the performance, the pure performance of the S90F at 77 inches, highly recommended. No, no, the S90F is QD OLED. The S85F is not at 77-inch, but the S90F is QD OLED from 55, 65 to 77. 83-inch is not. There is no 83-inch QD OLED from anybody because it's not made. That panel does not exist. Street the Cam. I needed a TV for my sunroom, which had a lot of windows. Really wanted an OLED like the Samsung S90F, but went with the Samsung Q90F to get the anti-glare. Pretty happy, but the right choice, FOMO? You nailed it. You're pretty happy. Don't second guess it, because once you bring another TV without the anti-glare, you will notice it. I miss the Q90F. I had the 98-inch right next to like wall windows all along, and I didn't even notice the windows, right? I was enjoying the content, and then I brought in the Bravia 5 98-inch. I'm like, oh man, I can see that glare now. So, or the reflections, right? I mean, your eyes get used to it, but I do enjoy that anti-glare on the QN90F. And this is why I think for many of you, it's a plus. Now, if I had direct light shining onto that matte anti-glare, it could be an issue. But I have curtains, the white curtains that lets light in, but not the direct sunlight, so it's not an issue. But if you have a hard direct light, that matte anti-glare kind of blows the color or the light, it spreads it around, it's impossible to see anything. So it definitely depends on your viewing situation, how the lighting hits it, but overall it's effective. Now you want, this is good. Don't second guess it. You're enjoying it. Don't look back, my friend. Don't look back. And we have another question here. FOMO, my G. I'm coming from OLED LG E6 65-inch. Ooh, old school. And that's like 9 years old, right? Should I go A95L 77-inch, LG G5 83-inch, S95F 83, or the 98-inch QM8K? Sidebar, do you think TCL will release a firmware update that will fix picture quality issues? They've been known to, so the answer is possibly, but I wouldn't count on it until it happens. In this list, I would go with the 83-inch LG G5 because 83 inches, you have, first of all, you're getting a big jump in immersion. So first, you're the classic OLED owner. You're used to OLED, you love the infinite contrast. You're also used to kind of LG's WebOS. Your little magic finger remote still working on the G5. It's 82 inches, definitely brighter, great for sports. I mean, I would even be tempted to say you may not need the G5. You might just go with a C5 and enjoy it at 83 inches because unless, okay, if you're in a bright room watching bright sports, you're in standard mode and you're watching hockey, the G5 nails it. It is able to preserve that brightness in a bright room really well. Now, let's talk about that 98-inch QM8K. It's a completely different choice. Now you're going after immersion. And the question is, can your mind enjoy the immersion, although you're seeing all the weaknesses of a mini LED TV? And so if you have a type A personality, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to see all the issues of a non-OLED TV, and it's going to just, you won't even enjoy the immersion. So, but if you're a type B personality, where you're looking big picture, literally, oh wow, it's so big, I love this, then I'd go with a 98-inch. So I'm that kind of guy more often than not. I'm watching on a screen, projector screen is 120 inches. I know it's not HDR, but it's just so big. And there's a little dim lighting on the side. I really enjoy that size immersion. I know it's not perfect. I know the infinite contrast is not there, but I'm lost in the content. And the issues, I accept it and I move on. But it's not like terrible issues, right? There's no like stutter and judder and the crazy stuff. So for me, going big is good. And for many people who are coming from a terrible TV from 10 years ago, it's always an upgrade. But you're not coming from a terrible TV. You're coming from an OLED, and OLEDs have more in common today than any other TV. If you compare it to their 8-year-old predecessor, like an LCD TV, today's LCD compared to an LCD from 10 years ago, oh, what a huge improvement. But today's OLED compared to 10 years ago, Colombo looks the same. That's what I'm trying to say, right? It's because your infinite contrast is what brings it together. So I'd say you don't need to go G583. You can even go C583 and benefit from the size and everything the C5 offers, except you don't have that 5-year panel warranty. If you want the peace of mind from a 5-year panel replacement warranty, get the G5 83-inch. So yeah, let me know what you do, Dubs. And Panasonic is selling a Best Buy is selling a Panasonic TV. Okay, so the Z8B 77-inch is the refresh of last year's 77-inch. It's not MLA. It is their best WOLED from last year with their premium sound system. So why is it 2400? A lot of that premium is because of package. It's a heavy TV. Um, yeah, it's a big, heavy. It's a Panasonic. It does everything a Panasonic does. It has the colors of a Panasonic, but it's WOLED, no MLA. It's just a well put together WOLED. It was designed to compete with a Bravia 8 with a way better stereo system. 2400 is a hard pill to swallow, though. I would take the 77-inch S90F over that because of the image quality, and I I'd take the money save and get a good soundbar, and then I'd be there, right? Soundbar with subwoofer option. I think I would have to wait for this Panasonic to drop in price. That's just way too much for a very good WOLED, but still, it's a competitor to the C5, C4, Bravia 8. It is not a competitor to the Z95A or Z95B or S90F. And yeah, you're welcome, Dubs. And I'm going to get a Samsung 55-inch 9000 2015 to a G5. Oh, I'm going from a Samsung 55-inch to a G5. Oh man, yes. Yes, you're going to love that. And here we have Hunter. Hey FOMO, what should I get? The TCL QM7K or Hisense 75QG, both 75 inches. If you saw my review, I did have them side by side. My Hisense U75QG looks better for content watching. So if you're gaming, QM7K has just better thought out gaming. The way they did gaming, better motion, all of that. A lot of people who tested the two, they prefer the QM7K, but the Hisense U75QG for content and just accuracy, tone mapping, just all of that is better than the Hisense. And if this is important to you, the audio on the Hisense is just phenomenal. It is the only mini LED TV that I have heard that matches my Bravia 9. Uh, Arguably, it could be better. I just love the Hisense U75QG. TV audio is solid, image quality is solid, and it comes very close to, well, Bravia 7, Bravia 9 personality, right? Good colors. QM7K, not as bright for sure. Gaming is better, so you have to choose your poison. Which do you prefer? Blooming control is not quite as good as the Hisense. QM8K, even slightly better blooming control, slightly brighter, but I would say go with a Hisense for movies. Oh, not to game on it. There you go. Okay, Hisense USM5QG. You're done. Kaintsu1. Hey, I recently bought a 65-inch G5 for 1,400 euros. Oh, wow, that's a pretty good price. But been hearing a lot of bad stuff compared to probably 8 Mark II. The cheapest I can get the Sony is 1900. Man, this bad stuff. All right, let's look at this. Okay, I'll tell you what the bad stuff is. Honestly, some of these reviews could be just, they're pounding on the bad stuff. The bad stuff, first of all, happened before a lot of the firmware updates. So look at the review date. If the review date was before August or before August, that was before all the firmware updates that fixed many of these issues. Now, some of these issues are still there, but it's the nature of WOLED. So by now, the outstanding stuff is mostly fixed. What they can never fix, and this is LG or anyone else using WOLED, certain posturization, certain color banding, and near shadow can never be perfect. Okay, that's always been the case with LG for the last 10 years, right, since this technology came out. Now, the Bravia 8 Mark II is not perfect either. You're going to have to get that calibrated as well because out of the box, everything looks kind of magenta. Now, I don't know in Europe if it is. This is in the US. Maybe Europe's different because I know at Vincent's shootout, the Bravia 8 Mark II is most accurate out of the box. So, and the Bravia 8 Mark II HDR, same issues as the G5. Its SDR is phenomenal. That's why it wins all these shootouts. But the HDR stuff that the G5 got knocked down for, the Bravia 8 Mark II is almost as bad, if not worse, than some scenes. So the Bravia 8 Mark II isn't pristine in HDR either. That's why I'm shocked it keeps on winning, right? Because its SDR is so strong, it carries it's weighted too much, I think. The S95F, if you're worried about those issues, is better than either TV. At 65 inches, S95F, I don't know how much you can get it in Europe, but if you can get it for 14 to 1500, get the S95F. I like it more than the Bravia 8 Mark II, more accurate out of the box, and it doesn't have the issues of the G5 or the Bravia 8 Mark II. It has better image processing in HDR. So, but the G5 is, okay, so all these TVs are good. Now, we're kind of in the woods, granular issues, and I think they're overstating it because if you're watching mostly Netflix, YouTube, old TV shows, broadcast, they all look the same. They all look the same. But if you put on test content, contrast patterns, you're putting in certain dark scenes, 1917 or Extraction or the latest Frankenstein movie on Netflix, you're going to see more differences there now. And if that's what you watch, then I wouldn't get the G5. I would get the Samsung S95F or the Bravia 8 Mark II because both of those, as QD OLEDs, they do dark scenes better. So hopefully that answers your concerns. But the G5 is not bad. It's just in select scenes, it doesn't do as well. But if you don't watch those select scenes, then don't worry about it. And FOMO, save me. Is it worth it to upgrade from my S90D 48-inch WOLED to an S95 F55 for gaming picture quality? Oh, absolutely. Immersion. Going from 48 to 55, first of all, your QD at 55 on the S95F is going to be amazing. The quantum dot HDR, sustained brightness, all of that for gaming, HDR, rock solid. It is so good. Now, keep in mind, there's anti-glare. So make sure your room has light control. So that way you don't have bright lights kind of affecting, lifting some of that black. But other than that, that's my only caveat is the anti-glare, make sure your room doesn't have direct light on it. But yeah, great upgrade, I think. Both in size and just as a gamer, if you game in HDR, the S95F is just going to blow you away. And here we go. Okay. And I'm with you, Wayne. This is a good point. So Samsung, if you guys haven't kept up, you gamers out there, Samsung removed HGIG. They're trying to simplify everything and not realizing that they actually remove the HGIG function by doing that. And so they promised they will be reintroducing it, but there was no promise as to when. It's like, remember the Q90R from 2019? They promised eARC support. It literally came in 2023. So like what, 4 years later, but it came, right? eARC support. Not just ARC, but eARC. So I think HGIG will eventually be restored, eventually. It's just, we don't know when. And yeah, keep your questions coming. I'll be on for another 8 minutes. We'll end at 1:45. Hey, FOMO, $700 for the QM7K or $1,400 for the S90F at 65 inches. Two completely different TVs, my friend. If you have $1,400 to spend, I would consider going to 77 inches for an LG B5. What is it you're watching? Because the S90F is definitely the better TV. But if you're watching mostly sports, I wouldn't waste my money getting a $1,400 S90F because sports is sports, right? You're just looking at the motion, the score, is it clear? And the $700 QM7K will do it. The S90F is kind of like that enthusiast TV, fine wine. If you're watching a lot of movie content and you control the lighting, right? The S90F, you see all the benefits of this high quality technology. But if you're watching news, CNN, sports, random YouTube influencer, QM7K is absolutely fine. So let me know what your use case is, Silver Arrow, and maybe we can narrow it down for you. And hey, Jennifer Gala. Hey, and if you guys don't know, I mentioned Jennifer Gala a lot. You guys, and the people who are just new to this channel, wait, who's Jennifer Gala? She creates the only HDR content on YouTube that challenges TVs. So when a TV says, yeah, we got 6,000 nits, I put her content on the TV and fact, they don't have 6,000 nits because she has 6,000 nits and the TV is definitely not showing 6,000 nits because the Bravia 9 is brighter or my reference monitor is brighter. That means they're lying, right? And the only content I have found that can do this is on Jennifer's channel. So thank you for coming on, Jennifer. I love what you do. It really, because before Jennifer, there was no way to test this because you don't know how bright should this stuff be other than Spears and Munsell, right? And with Jennifer, it's like, she tries to mimic real content and I love it, right? So yeah, she's got a huge library. Demo scenes on YouTube. You want to show off your latest and greatest flagship, put her stuff on a demo loop and people are like, oh my God, that thing is bright. It's burning my eyeballs. All right. Just looking for some questions, guys. So yeah, ask away. We have time for a few more. Excanism. Wait, let me see. Did I miss any super chats? And if I miss any of your question, let me know because sometimes this stuff moves so fast. Okay. FOMO. I just bought the 65-inch A95L for $17.95 yesterday at Best Buy to upgrade from an old Vizio. How did I do? A whole different world, my friend. You went from the clown of TVs to the king of TVs. Now, I know you love your Vizio, and I've had some good Vizios. I think back in 2015, Vizio was okay. But Vizio went downhill so quickly. They were acquired by Walmart, and Walmart discarded the hardware and just kept the actual SmartCast ad system, right? So yeah, you're doing well. Now, the 65-inch A95L, just keep in mind, if you need it to be brighter, get out of professional mode, go into standard mode. But that's it, right? Sports and stuff you need brighter, go into standard or even vivid. Keep it at expert 1 and colors will be okay. Or film or professional mode if you're in a dark room and just enjoy the heck out of it. You got such a good TV. I love that TV. I have the predecessor in my bedroom, the A95K, A95L is just that much better. So yes, great, great TV. Oh, interesting. Jared Hansen. My LG G4 developed a picture issue and is being returned. Oh, is the G5 going to be a clearer picture upgrade? Oh, by the way, your G4 is covered under LG's 5-year panel replacement warranty. Just an FYI. So, if it's covered, is the G5 going to be a clearer picture upgrade for streaming content? No. Debating on waiting or picking up a G5. So, this is something that reviewers and shootouts don't tell you. If you're just streaming, Disney, Netflix, HBO Max, YouTube, identical, other than Jennifer Gala, right? You'll see differences in her content. Going from a G4 to a G5 and just streaming, notice no difference at all. Maybe with some of the issues that G5 had early, but after all these firmware updates, they're pretty much the same. G5 is slightly brighter for sports. So it'll be a slight upgrade in sports. If you watch in standard mode at max brightness, then you're going to get a brighter, slightly brighter picture that the contrast is there. On the G4, it was washed out a little bit. Even though it was bright, you lost some of that color saturation. The color saturation is mostly preserved on the G5. So the upgrade will be bright sports watching in standard mode and its brightest setting in a bright room. So that's the biggest upgrade. But everything else is going to look the same. The same. And this is why I don't have problems telling you guys, upgrade to a larger size. Just don't upgrade the actual model up. It may do nothing for you, but the size will always be something you can see in everything. Ah, hey FOMO, any compelling reason in terms of features or rumors to wait for 2026 OLED? One small one, prices will drop a little bit. That's it. So I've been looking at what LG Display is doing and everyone's focused on dropping prices because existential survival. If OLED does not drop its prices, they will be gone in 3 years because people are just buying larger mini LEDs. OLEDs are just way too expensive. So they're very focused on dropping prices on their larger sizes. 77-inch, 83. You're going to see a lot more affordable OLEDs. But let's put that aside and get to your implication. What features do we need for OLED? Honestly, like what is it you guys want? I know gamers want 240 hertz refresh. All right, so we get that out of the way, right? You might see something like that. So if you're a gamer, you might see higher refresh, right? We're at 165, maybe it breaks 200. Whoop, right? You're a PC gamer. Whoop, 240 hertz. Whoop, okay. Throw that out. What's left? Other than high refresh, there's nothing. I've said this so often to fellow reviewers, and Brian, I talk about this all the time. We are at peak image quality performance at OLED, just QD OLED, WOLED. You guys are not going to enjoy or even appreciate any improvement because the content doesn't justify it. The perfect example, I heard someone telling me, oh, BT 2020, we're getting that much closer to 100%. I'm like, why? The content in DCI P3 that they're using in Hollywood, they're not pushing the color into BT 2020 that would justify spending so much money to get that extra 5% coverage of BT 2020, right? It's like, do you want that lime green? And I understand by pushing it farther into BT 2020, you might remove some possible color banding. I just think the real compelling reason will be invisible to you guys. Image processing. Sony needs to fix its HDR issues in terms of just posterization on a QD OLED, right? That LG needs to find a way to do what Panasonic did. Panasonic does it better than LG on WOLED, which is addressing posterization, banding. It doesn't eliminate it. This is all software. So this is stuff that you guys don't want to hear because it's not sexy. It's not romantic. Oh, right? You're all going to hear more about RGB LED, which essentially is LCD TVs, right? That's all you're going to hear in 2026. OLED is yesterday's news because there's nothing left. If I said to you, guess what? LG found a way to go 6,000 nits. It doesn't move the needle at all because you're like, wait, I'm going blind at 4,000 nits. What does 6,000 do for me, right? So, yeah. Unfortunately, I think a combination of we're at an actual technical limit. I know we might get an extra 500 nits here or there, but you guys know that's pointless, right? But as far as other things, it's mini LED trying to get closer to OLED. That's exciting. OLED has nowhere to go. It's already peak performance. So it's a little expensive though, and we need to have a affordable 97-inch OLED. That's where they need to be. I'm not hearing that at all. 97 inches is just not affordable. So if I can get a 97-inch OLED for under 10,000, I think that's news. But right now it's over 23,000 or something ridiculous like that. And here's a technical question. Don't you need a true 12-bit panel for 100% BT 2020 FOMO? I don't know. I don't know. But I'll tell you for sure, content is not there. So let's just say for the sake of argument, we got 12-bit panel, 100% BT 2020 on the latest and greatest QD self-immersive technology, right? You're not just going to wait for content because I can guarantee you nothing is being produced at 100% BT 2020 where, I mean, it might be a container, right? But they're not pushing the colors to cover this. So maybe my shirt, right? Like, look, this is going to be an extra bright fuchsia right here, right? Yeah, Jason, I think it's silly, but we're going to talk about that in next week's news update. FOMO, I got two 100-inch U70N from Costco for $9.99 each. Oh my God, that's so awesome on clearance. Well, what are your thoughts compared to U7G and U8K? So the U8K, U7G, I believe, have more dimming zones. It's all about dimming zones. The U70N at $9.99, clearly, this is similar to the TCL Q55K. No dimming zones, right? It's just direct lit LED, old school. If you remember the old school TCL 6 series from 2018, basically you got the 98-inch version, which is a compliment. I loved the 6 series as a direct lit. It was pretty good. And then you started getting dimming zones, and suddenly it's a whole new world for TCL. This is old school. Direct lit, large, watching sports, it works. You're not going to watch HDR on it, right? It won't have the contrast of dimming zone driven TVs, but at $9.99, man, it's going to lack the HDR performance of the U7 and the U8. But do you need it? If you're watching mostly YouTube and sports, I would say you don't. I think you're good. Okay, and I think we'll answer one more question and we'll be done. Oh, here we go, this follow-up. So we'll answer Silver Arrow's follow-up and I'll choose one more interesting question and then we'll wrap up and you guys can enjoy your weekend. Thank you, FOMO. Some gaming and Blu-ray movies will not be using it with much during daytime. Can't justify the QM8K 65-inch at 1100. TCL provides all audio formats. Go for S90F and don't look back. Thank you. Yes. The S90F. So let me tell you context. The S90F to me is identical to last year's S95D. Two differences only. It doesn't have the anti-glare matte. It doesn't have the One Connect box. The One Connect box to me isn't a big deal. So not a problem, right? The anti-glare, some people like it, some people don't. But everything else about the S90F is the S95D, which I loved. I thought that TV was great. It was my benchmark HDR TV last year. And so you're getting a flagship image quality from last year for this year's prices on an S90F. Don't look back. You're getting what represents, I think, QD OLED at its best. And I would choose the S90F over the Bravia 8 Mark II, mostly because it shares more with the S95F than with the Sony in terms of its color accuracy and gaming features and whatnot. So, and I don't care about Dolby Vision, right? That's not a big deal at all. So yeah, go with the S90F. Don't look back, but if you can fit in an extended warranty, please do. Just because life happens. I don't want you to be unlucky and 13 months into your ownership, it dies, right? It happens. And oh, wait, FOMO, the U70 has full array local dimming. You win, man. You win. Then that is an X. You got the bare minimum then. Yeah. No, I think you're good, because this is why. Hisense does a great job with tuning their color, not quite like Sony level of history and obsession, but they've caught up. And I think you got a great TV. I'm not even going to second guess it. Oh, here's a good comment. I don't think the S90F supports DTS. Now, I don't look into these audio formats at all. Is it important to you guys that any of these TVs support DTS? For me, it's not a big deal. It all sounds the same to me. I run them through a sound bar, I run them through my system. My source is often not the TV, but I understand if your source is the TV, you run it to eARC and you send it out to your system, okay, you might want DTS. But I'll tell you this, if you're doing TV audio, then what's the point, right? TV audio DTS or not doesn't make a difference. But if you're using eARC and you're sending out to your huge, nice audio system, I get it. So Brandon, is it important to you that it does not support DTS? Because I think it's a nothing burger unless you really have a built-out system. Or unless you're using headphones, I guess, right? Maybe you can hear the DTS. Here we go. Here's a great question, and we will end on this one because it's important. FOMO, are you going to have another live stream on Black Friday? Yes, I'm going to have it in the morning. I'm thinking of having it around 9 o'clock to give you guys time to shop, and you can listen to me while you're shopping, ask questions on your phone, hopefully not while you're driving. But definitely, we will have a Black Friday streaming special in the morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. This is a great question. That's what we will do. Now, and last question. I've been debating for 2 days now. If I was in your shoes, or I was in your shoes, what TV would I pick right now to buy? Sony A95L or Samsung S95F? The Samsung S95F. There you go. Hopefully, wait. I got to say it with irony. Okay, here we go. This is irony. I've been debating for 2 days. Should I get the Sony A95L or Samsung S95F? I would get the Samsung S95F. And I've said this kind of all year long, right? Now, just to tell you what TVs I have right now, my benchmark HDR impact is still the G5. I have the Bravia 8 Mark II. The A95L is elsewhere because I feel the Bravia 8 Mark II performs slightly better for HDR impact. My TV at home in my bedroom is the Sony A95K. And I have the Sony Bravia 9 here when I watch sports. Just, I love the audio for sports and all that great stuff. And then in my main watching room, I have a 120-inch projection, ultra short throw, laser Hisense L9Q. So you guys have some context. And I sit about 9 to 10 feet away from the 120-inch. And it's just popped on a wall, by the way. I'm too lazy to put up a screen. I just like, this is good enough for me. So yes, hopefully that answers your question. Now, thank you so much. Until next time, my friends, we're going to have a Black Friday live stream. Stop the FOMO, be well, and take care of yourselves. Bye.